and I am here back again with another book summary for you. So, are you ready to dig in? Today we are going to read together the book summary of The Art of Saying No. How to stand your ground, reclaim your time and energy, and refuse to be taken for granted without feeling guilty by Assertiveness. So, let's start right from the introduction. Generally, people see the word no as something that is negative. It is the word that a person says when she rejects you. It is the word you hear when your boss does not give you a paid leave. If you want something to go your way, no is the last word you want to hear. This is what other people think as well. This is why it can be difficult to say it. In this book, you will learn how to say no without feeling guilty. You will learn that saying no is a skill you need to master. Because always saying yes to other people is saying no to yourself. We'll read about this and a lot more in this book summary. So, let's start with the very first chapter, The People-Pleasing Habit. How do you define someone as being a nice person? Do you say someone is nice when they're always ready to help out? Are nice people always reliable? Do they attend to other people's needs all the time? A nice person might be all of the above. But there is a hidden side of these nice people. They are secretly people pleasers. Author Daman used to love being a people pleaser. He always said yes when someone asked him for a favor. Daman being always available made people happy. But eventually, it made Daman unhappy. Every yes to another person was Daman saying no to himself. He no longer had time for himself. He sacrificed time, energy, and money for other people. For instance, he had a pickup truck when he was in college. Daman was automatically designated as the mover. His friends expected him to help them move. Daman always did. Sometimes he had to cancel his own plans for that day. Soon enough, he became bitter towards his friends. So, how did Daman get rid of the tendency to be a people pleaser? First, Daman sat down and reflected. If he constantly put the needs of others first, when will he meet his needs? You see, no one will be able to meet your needs but yourself. Always putting others first leads to hatred and resentment. Daman reached a point where he hated everyone he loved. He was in a mentally bad place. But then he realized something. He can still help others. He just needed to put himself first. Being a people pleaser is not necessarily bad. You can still be there for them. You just have to prioritize yourself first. Think of it when an airplane experiences rough turbulence. The oxygen masks appear overhead. If you help other passengers in putting their masks first, you run the risk of not getting enough oxygen. You end up with hypoxia. So, put yourself first. Then, you will be physically be able to help other people. Second, Daman learned how to be assertive. It is a skill that everyone should master. Being assertive means you are pursuing your own wants and needs first, even if it means people will oppose you. For instance, you and your friend are discussing politics. Both of you have contradicting opinions. Yet, you still assert your opinion even if you do not see eye to eye. This does not mean you're forcing your friend to agree with you. You're just communicating your stand. Being assertive is essential to saying no. Third, Daman was able to understand what made saying no so difficult for him. You would think it was just easy to decline people all the time. How hard can saying one word be? But Daman realized that it was not saying the word that was hard. It was immediately feeling guilty for saying it. Even though saying no was for his own good. The next chapter is Reasons we struggle to say no. It is now your turn to figure out why you have a hard time saying no. It is important to acknowledge this part. In that way, you will get rid of that guilty feeling. Remember that you are trying to say no so that you will not feel terrible afterwards. The first reason is that you were raised to believe that declining other people is rude. Worse, you might think that you are offending them. You can see the offense in their frown. You can see it in the way their face displays an expression of hurt, and it feels awful. But remember that saying no is not a sin. It is not wrong for you to put yourself first, especially if you have a lot of things to do. In fact, it is the person's fault if he feels insulted by your rejection. He is taking it personally. He does not accept that you have your own priorities. As long as you say no respectfully, then you should not feel guilty at all. The second reason why you find it hard to say no is because you have a low self-esteem. There is an inner critic in all of us. This inner critic feeds you doubt. It reminds you that you are not as good as you think you are. Thus, you think your wants and needs are inferior compared to other people's. Your value is nothing compared to the value of other people. They're out there, chasing their dreams and doing so well. You think that you might feel useful because you are helping them. So, you always say yes to them. But this is completely wrong. No matter what you achieve or do not achieve, you are worthy. You deserve to have time to work on yourself. You deserve to put yourself first. The third reason is that you want to avoid conflict. Daman used to hide behind this reason as well. Confrontation made him nervous. Thus, he said yes, even though he really wanted to say no. Having someone to dislike you is a terrible feeling. You want to be liked all the time. But this is impossible. When a person gets upset because you rejected a request, let them be. If you say yes, even though you want to say no, you are prioritizing that person. You are disregarding your own feelings. And that can make you feel resentful. It is hard to get rid of the habit of always saying yes. That is why Daman did it in small, baby steps. He started saying no in situations that had zero confrontation. For instance, he passed by a lot of salespeople in a store. When a salesperson approached him, Daman would say no. Slowly, you will gain the strength to say no to family, friends, and co-workers. Saying no is like exercising a muscle. It becomes stronger when you often use it. The next chapter is 10 strategies for saying no without feeling like a jerk. The first strategy is to be direct and straightforward. Have you been in this situation? You have a lot of things to do for work. You have to finish a report and you have a presentation tomorrow. On top of that, you need to have a serious discussion with your co-worker. In other words, you are stressed and busy. Then another co-worker named Jen drops by your desk. She asks if you have time to help her. You hesitate. You say that you're busy and you're not sure if you have enough time. Do not do this. Being indirect will encourage people like Jen to pressure you. Your hesitation will act as a motivation for them to keep pushing you to say yes. Instead, be clear when declining requests. Say you are sorry and that you are busy with work. Make sure to have a real excuse as well. The person who is asking for a favor might sense that you are just lying. So, be direct, honest, and respectful. The second strategy is not to ask for more time. This is similar to the first strategy. Sometimes, You want to give yourself the strength to say no. You ask the person to give you more time to think about it, even though your answer is already a no. It helps you to avoid confrontation. But there are 3 reasons why you should not delay saying no. The first reason is that the person making the request or the requester will be encouraged. He will hope that you will say yes because you are taking your time. But when you eventually say no, he will become irritated. And for good reason. You wasted his time on getting his hopes up. The second reason is that your indecisiveness will encourage the requester to pressure you. You will be forced to say yes to them. The third reason is that you are decreasing both you and the requester's productivity. You will spend unnecessary time thinking about saying no, and the requester will waste time waiting for you to say no. He could have asked someone else by now. The third strategy is to replace no with another word. People are sensitive. Most of them will react negatively when they are declined. Sometimes you just have to adjust your way of communicating no. For instance, your uncle asks you to take him to the airport. Normally, saying no and providing a reason would be enough. But your uncle is not sympathetic to anyone. He will take it as an offense. So, you say no in another way. You can say that you want to drive him to the airport. However, you have a highly important project to finish. You can also say that you have a deadline and it will let people down if you miss it. This way of declining lets the requester realize you have a prior commitment. It will make them see that you have obligations you cannot abandon. The fourth strategy is to resist the urge to offer excuses. The fourth strategy might seem to contradict the third strategy. But remember, the third strategy is only applicable for those people who have no sympathy. Offering excuses can backfire. Suppose a friend asks you to babysit her kids. You come up with a lie that you have to stay late at the office. But then your friend sees pictures of you at a party later that night. It is obvious that making up excuses can make you feel guilty. It will also establish you as someone who is untrustworthy. Offering excuses can also enable the requester to find loopholes. Going back to the babysitting example, since you cannot babysit tonight, maybe you can babysit tomorrow. So, say no courteously and do not offer any excuses. The fifth strategy is to take ownership of your decision. When someone asks you to do something for them, you say, I can't. Now this can be problematic. You can always spare your money, energy, or time for someone. But you decide that you cannot. And that is well and good. But the phrase, I can't, is disempowering. It is a way of saying you're not owning up to your decision. It is saying that the choice to help is out of your hands. Think about it. Saying I can't is like putting the responsibility on someone else. You can't do something because of an external circumstance. So, instead of saying I can't, start saying I don't want to. It is reinforcing your personal authority over your decision. You are owning up to the fact that you are choosing to spend your time and energy on yourself. The sixth strategy is to ask the requester to follow up later. No, this is not a delaying tactic as you think it is. This is a strategy for when a person's request has a tone of urgency. For example, your coworker enters your office with panic on his face. He says he needs help with a task that is crucial, but you are also attending to matters of your own at the moment. So, you say that you cannot help him right now. However, if he still needs help after 4 p.m., you might be free to help him. Make sure that your offer is genuine. Your coworker might still need help by then. This is also expressing your willingness to help him. This strategy is effective since it enables you to put yourself first. However, remember that you're not obligated to say yes if he does follow up. The seventh strategy is to avoid lying about your availability. Although this has been mentioned before, lying should never be a strategy. Lying is easy. It can be so easy to make up a fake doctor's appointment to get out of a request. But this can be damaging to you in the long run. You are training yourself to invalidate your own reasons. You think that simply saying no because you do not want to is not enough. For instance, you do not like driving for people all the time. So, you come up with lies. Do not do this. Instead, decline politely and say that you've been planning to relax. Say that you do not always like to be the designated driver. It sounds impolite, but it is not. You are just communicating to the requester about your feelings on the request. You do not have to feel guilty about wanting to be available for your own self. Again, if you do not put your wants and needs first, then who will? The eighth strategy is to offer an alternative. Suppose you want to help out your friend, Amber. She's stuck on how to finish her research paper. However, you have a lot of things to do. You cannot just abandon your responsibilities like that. So, you suggest to Amber about other people who can help. You might have a mutual friend who also had to write a research paper for his class. Suppose Amber already asked you for a favor before. Last month, she asked you to help organize a charity. This month, she's asking you to help her with the paper. You do not have the time and energy to juggle both. So, you make her choose. Ask her which one she needs more help with because you cannot do both. This will make her realize that you have priorities to attend to as well. You do not necessarily have to do this. Offering an alternative is an act of goodwill. And as usual, only offer if you really want to do it. The ninth strategy is to suggest another person who is better qualified. Even if you do want to help, there is something that can stop you. You realize that there is someone who is better at helping the requester fulfill the task. For instance, you have a friend named John who just finished writing her novel. She wants you to read it and give her constructive criticism. You enjoy reading and you want to help John. But you know that there are people who are more experienced than you are. So, you refer her to Susan, who you know has been reviewing books for years. You're not outright rejecting what Joan is asking for. You are just directing her to a person who is more suitable to help her out. The 10th strategy is to describe your lack of bandwidth. This is the strategy that Daman often uses. He has a to-do list every day, and it is usually packed with activities. He has work to do, family and social obligations to meet, etc. Once, a friend asked Daman if he could help her in finding a house to rent. Daman had to say no because house hunting takes a long time. His friend insisted that it will only take an hour. Daman realized that he was being pressured to say yes. So, he took out his to-do list and showed his friend the schedule. He had meetings to facilitate and appointments to fulfill. The friend realized that Daman was not just telling her no for the sake of it. He was truly and incredibly busy. Lacking bandwidth will help requesters know that you are truly unavailable. It will also help you to avoid being pressured to say yes. Bonus strategies. The first bonus strategy is to be resolute. There are simply people who are pushy. Even if you give them a firm no, they will still try to convince you to say yes. You might feel like your choice is invalidated. But remember that there are people who are persistent. It is more of their problem, not yours. Suppose a requester is still being pushy after you say no to them. Tell them firmly but respectfully that you will not be changing your mind. Another thing to do is to ask the requester if he asked anyone else. He might get some help from people who are more qualified for the task. The second bonus strategy is to be courteous. It can be irritating if someone does not accept your no, especially if the requester becomes rude and demanding. It is tempting to match the requester's impoliteness, but do not give in. The requester's rudeness is a reflection of who he is. It's not about you. Always turn down requests with courtesy and respect. The third bonus strategy is to confront your fear of missing out. It is rare to have opportunities. Whether it's a promotion or the chance of meeting more friends, you fear that you are missing out on something when you say no. That is why you say yes even though you do not have time, energy, or money. The fear of missing out can make you anxious. You second-guess yourself constantly. But just because you have a chance does not mean you should take it. Consider the consequences of always saying yes. How much work will you have to finish? How much money will you have to spend on going out with friends every night? It will be hard to overcome the fear of missing out. But know that it will get easier eventually. Conclusion. In this book summary, first you learned that you have to get rid of the habit of pleasing other people. Always saying yes to people is saying no to your own wants and needs. You are spending time, energy, and money just because you cannot decline people. Second, you learned that being assertive is a step towards saying no to other people. It is making them understand that you are putting yourself first. This is not being disrespectful. It is prioritizing what matters the most, which is yourself. Third, you learned about the different reasons why you struggle to say no. Finding out the reason is essential. In that way, you can work out why you find it hard to decline. Fourth, you learned about several strategies that will help you say no to other people. Always be direct and straightforward. Do not come up with lies to avoid confrontation. If the requester gets mad, still stick to your decision. If you want to help but cannot, offer an alternative. Do all of these in the most respectful way you can. If the requester is rude, do not match his rudeness. It can be scary to stand up for yourself. It is easy to please other people. If they are happy, you are happy, right? But you cannot keep living life that way. It is time to put yourself first. You are not being selfish by thinking about yourself. You are just prioritizing what you want and what you need. Because who else will? That is it for the summary of The Art of Saying No. If you liked it, please write down in the comments below what you liked the most about it. This is Gigla Sakshi signing off, and I'll meet you next time with another book summary for you. Until then, take good care of yourself. Goodbye. Jai Hind.